Generally, when you sit down to watch a MotoGP race, there's a couple of constants you can expect. One, Tito Rabat is going to suck. Two, Cal's going to crash and then whine about it. And three, a factory rider is going to win the race. They simply have too much money, too much time, and too much investment into their teams and the bike not to. But every once in a while, a factory rider makes a mistake and a satellite rider throws a spanner in the works. And I'm Kevin. That's Rob. And this is BrotoGP's top 5 wins by a satellite rider. Number 5, 2016, Jack motherfucking Miller. After nearly 10 years, or maybe actually 10 years, drought of a satellite rider winning any race whatsoever, Moto3 transplant Jack Miller burst onto the scene at Assen in the rain during a red flag race to take his maiden victory and end the drought of satellite riders winning races in MotoGP. Not only did he win that race, but he actually scored more points in that one race than his entire previous 24 starts that you could have. It was actually a pretty amazing race. He was winning. He was doing well. The race was red flagged due to sketchy conditions. We saw multiple crash outs by the likes of Valentino, by Dovizioso, serious veterans who were unable to handle the tricky conditions. But there he was, the crazy Aussie, the boot-drinking Miller, fighting for the win, sees Marquez in front of him. Marquez, meanwhile, is realizing that Valentino is out. He's just been promising to finish the race. He had talked with his team the night before that you have to finish the race, and Jack Miller realizes this is his opportunity to get that maiden win and actually goes to get that win. Like I said, first race in a decade that a satellite rider actually won. We had been through the 800cc era, the alien era, even some of the non-alien wins that we had seen were the likes of Vermeulen or Dovizioso. But Miller was actually the first guy in 5 years not named Stoner, Lorenzo, Valentino, Pedrosa to actually win a race. So he ended the dearth. He was the first guy to do it. And he kind of, it was a big win, not just because he was able to win. It was Mark VDS's first win. It was his first win, but it sort of validated the Honda experiment of taking him controversially up by skipping Moto 2 entirely and going to Moto 3. His sort of famous, yeah, right, did it. He had to have that famous word, I'm not an idiot. I know how to ride a motorcycle. And anytime someone in Parc Fermé after winning tells the cameraman, I'm not an idiot, you know it was good. It was actually a pretty good race. He was battling. It was, a classic rain race, guys going down, but there was so much tension, so much excitement, and could he actually pull this off? Case in point, if you had checked B win the night before, his odds of winning were a cool 1,000 to 1. So I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, our number 5 rider is Jack Miller, 2016 at Assen. Jackin' Dat Assen.
Damn, Kev, you had a lot to say about Miller there. All right,
Boom.
our number 4 pick, going back quite a ways, Makoto Tamada in 2004 in Rio, in Brazil. Yeah, right. I had to go back and rewatch this race, but the number one reason it was Makoto Tamada's first win, if I'm not mistaken. But the main reason why we have this on this list is because it was the first Bridgestone win, and it came in conditions that we would see a lot in MotoGP for the next couple of years, and now into the Spec Tire Series. Right? It was a hot and bumpy track. It was a flyaway round. So Michelin wasn't able to make their overnight tires, and Bridgestone made a tire that would work in a wide range of conditions, and Tamada was able to pull off the win. His teammate on Camel Honda was on Michelin's, and he got second place, but he was not able to put up a fight in the last, I think, 3 laps for Tamada to take that win. The other thing, I already said it, Michelin wasn't able to make their overnight tires, and it kind of was the beginning of the end for them and why they lost their dominance in MotoGP. After that, it only took 2 years for Bridgestone to put together a serious title challenge in 2006. I would say that if Capirossi hadn't gotten hurt kind of midway through the season, that they would have had more wins and been even further up into the title challenge. And it was generally everything that we were going to see out of Bridgestone for the next even decade. I mean, even the way that Tamada won, he won on the front end with a lot more front grip in hot conditions, pushing the hard front tire compared to all the Michelin racers that were on the medium. So that's my number 4 pick is Makoto Tamada in 2004.
And our number 3 pick, a little more emotional, a little more of a tearjerker, Sete Gibernau, South Africa, 2003. We even go farther back than Rob's pick to following a tragedy that still haunts us a little bit to this day. Daijiro Kato passed away in the Japanese round after a tragic accident. Sete Gibernau was given the heavy and unfortunate task of taking over his factory spec bike on the Gresini Honda team. And at the South African round, he scored his first pole position and then went on to win the race. To win the race handedly as well by fending off a last lap charge by Valentino Rossi. Valentino at the time had been sort of like, the running joke now is that he would stalk guys, make interesting, and then pull away and win at the end. But Sete was actually able to fight him off. There was a pretty good battle. Rossi was closing quickly. In fact, at one point, he was taking multiple tenths out a lap, but Sete held him off, fought it well, and did extremely good at not only gaining a win after his first pole position, but in such extraordinary fashion that if you watch the race, the Gresini Honda team Parc Ferme basically just swarm him. It's silence. It's too much emotion for anyone even to deal with, and it's truly amazing. It's not that it was a good race. It wasn't bad, but it was the emotional weight of this. If you were there, if you were watching it live, it's not much different if you're of our generation when you saw Michele Pirro win after Marco Simoncelli passed away, except Sete was on Daijiro's bike. Literally, it was a premier class victory, which takes a bunch of weight. And the way he was able to score that pole position, follow up, and fight off who at the time was the invincible dominant champion and beat him at his own game to seal that victory was more than a lot of fans could handle. It was exceedingly emotional. If you were someone who was following that time and watching live, it's hard to forget. And I think it could have easily been our number 2 or number 1, but it's on the podium, and we'll see why number 2 is Rob's choice, but I definitely think number 3, Sete Gibernau, filling in for Daijiro Kato, getting that win for the Gresini team. Easy number 3.
Do we have to put an asterisk next to that choice? Did you say that Sete was on a factory bike that he got?
Well, it was in a factory spec bike, but for a satellite team. And as we know from the likes of, say, Marco Simoncelli and other guys, that you may be factory spec in the parts that you're getting, but it's not being the factory team. And at the time, the true factory rider was Valentino. This wasn't one of those weird, 2005 situations where you had Biaggi who was getting DQ'd and all that. This was a true satellite team where the factory team had a true number 1 reigning multi-time champion.
All right. I will let that one slide. But so speaking of getting factory parts and having to test them and use them during races, our number 2 pick is the current HRC workhorse, Cal Crutchlow, and Cal Crutchlow 2016 Phillip Island. So this was the year that Jack Miller won his race and was the first one to the first satellite racer to win in a decade. However, Cal Crutchlow did one thing that Jack Miller was unable to. He did it in the dry, and he did it in very convincing fashion. Sure, some people might say that Marquez was pulling away at the time. Marquez crashes out in turn 4, tucks the front because of the sketchy conditions and having a cold side of the tire. But Cal was the best of the best that day. Marquez made a mistake. He explicitly told us in in an interview to Dylan right at that time, Cal was the best. Didn't make the same mistake that he made he made in turn 4 the year before when he was fighting for a podium. Brought it home, sealed that win. We give a lot of shade to Cal on this podcast, a lot, but this time he showed everyone what he was made of. So Cal, for his second win of the year, doing it in the dry, gets our number 2 spot.
And the number 1, I think, for wins by a satellite rider in the modern era, I think beyond a doubt, no question. There was never really sans Sete's emotion, but for pure drama and intrigue at every step of the way, Toni Elias, Gresini Honda, Portugal, 2006, the dreaded Zug, is our number one pick. And I think that if you watch this race from start to finish, it's fucking insane. It starts with, you know, a massive incident. John Hopkins runs off. Colin Edwards crashes. There's all kinds of gnarliness taking place. And then Toni Elias's win starts with the dreaded incident, the incident that many American fans still can't forget, despite the fact that Hayden went on to win, which was while in 5th place, Toni Elias got to see firsthand Danny Pedrosa make a rookie mistake and take out, at the time, championship leader Nicky Hayden, promoting him to 3rd and suddenly putting himself in a battle between Valentino Rossi and Kenny Roberts Jr. on the Roberts Frankenstein bike for that.
The KR.
What you saw would be, right, the KR, whatever that was, 211. What you saw was an epic race in which Toni Elias was using a tire that Danny Pedrosa decided not to use, so a cast-off, taking full advantage of that and fighting both KR and Valentino Rossi to the finish, dragging the champ to the line, robbing of him of 5 points, and winning by a cool 0.02 seconds, 0.02 of a second. Fucking amazing. And little did we know at the time that those 5 points would be as integral of 5 points as anyone ever scored, or in Valentino's case, didn't score.
Yeah, so this might not have been the most drama-filled. I mean, it was a drama-filled race. It was an amazing race. But the reason why it gets the number one spot is because of all of those implications after the race, right? We didn't learn until later on that Toni Elias effectively won because he used a special Michelin tire that Danny Pedrosa had discarded. We didn't find out until at Valencia that those 5 points were so meaningful for the title. But all that comes together. You go back and watch that race with all that hype building it up, and that's why it gets our number one spot.
Yep, and then who knew that after that crazy season in 2006, which saw satellite riders like Toni Elias win, we saw Marco Melandri win, that we would go on to a serious dearth of winners for literally the next 10 years. You saw the entrance to the alien era, and we sort of lived to that for a long period of time. And if you were a fan of satellite riders, or if you were a fan of Miro-inspired liveries, such that Gresini had at the time, yeah, art critic Kevin in the house, that was going to be the sole way to tide you over for a solid decade before our number 5 pick, Jack Miller, reinvigorated the satellite squad.
All right, that's our list. So
that's our list. If you enjoy it, like, share, and subscribe, and follow for more lists as we continue to send these out. We'll have some cool ones like, more real ones like top 5 silent riders. Then we'll have maybe the top 500 weird Iannone Instagram stories. I have no idea. What do you want us to hear? Leave in the comments below the top 5 you would like us to cover, and we'll get to it.
And of course, if you think we missed some satellite races or satellite winners that should have made the list, let us know in the comments as well. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you very soon.